Hey guys, we are in the basement, and yesterday guys, on this episode of John's Arcade, and by the way, look at this. I just noticed this. That's Excitebike. It's all messed up. The sprites are all like garbagey, so probably just reseating the ROMs and maybe the edge connector, I don't know, but it's not a huge deal, but it just happened and it's irritating. And also, back here, this just happened like in the last week or so. My computer Spaceball, the monitor collapsed on me. It's actually a television set. It's an old GE 70s tube TV in there, and I had vertical collapse on the screen. So I went on eBay and I ordered a bunch of tubes, and I don't know, we'll try replacing some of the video tubes. Maybe we have to reflow solder, maybe replace capacitors, I have no idea. So anyway, what are we doing in this video? Well, this is what we're doing right here. Now, this is a quarter scale Dragon's Lair arcade game that NEWWAVE Toys sent me, okay? Now, I'm actually super excited to do this video because I love me some Dragon's Lair, and again, made by NEWWAVE Toys. It says here, Replicade, okay? So why don't we first kind of look at my Dragon's Lair and just talk about Dragon's Lair, and then we'll open this thing up and see what's going on. So, all right, over here is my original Dragon's Lair, okay? Now, this game came out in 1983, and it's a LASERDISC game. And when it came out, it was super elite, like hardcore elite, like seriously elite, okay? I remember when 7-Eleven had this, and when I was a kid in the 80s, you know, I'd ride my bicycle up there, and I'd play Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr., but then one day, this thing showed up, and the worst part of it, for me as a kid, was it was 50 cents, okay? And that was like crazy talk, okay? Because every game prior to this was $1.25, and this game cost twice as much to play, right? And when I was a kid, I mean, 50 cents was impossible. I mean, just having $1 and getting to play 4 games of Donkey Kong was about as good as it was going to get for the week, and to only play 2 games of Dragon's Lair. And honestly, at the time, the game seemed so hard to me and so mysterious. Like, I would watch the older kids play it, and I couldn't risk playing the game, you know? I would every now and then, but I just didn't, like, know what to do. There was no internet. There was no GameFAQs, you know, website to go to. And I would just watch people play, and then I would play it every now and then. But it's something I've always been just like in awe of. I love the art style. It's all hand drawn by Don Bluth in his studio. Don Bluth, of course, was a ex-Disney guy. If you look up here, I do have a spectator monitor, and that was kind of a thing back in the day because this game had a LASERDISC player in it. You know, you had more than one video out, and so people would run one of the video outs to a external monitor, put it on the top, and then people can watch and spectate. You know, so I got a Sony PVM. I ran one of the video outs on the LASERDISC player up there, and I have a spectator monitor. Don't really need it, but it's kind of cool. If you look here, it has this kind of segmented display to keep score. So they're not keeping score like on the screen, because what you're seeing on the screen is coming from the LASERDISC player, right? And basically the game board is controlling which track to play according, basically based on your joystick movements, and it's keeping track if you succeeded or didn't. And if you did well, your score would go up and it would show it on this segmented display. It has 2 speakers, a left and a right, obviously, but they're each independent channels with their own independent volume knobs. So that's one of the only games I think down here that's like that, where you have 2 speakers, kind of stereo, but it's really like dual mono, and they're each independent channels. The marquee was kind of unique for its time, this kind of bend. The cabinet is actually really elite. Like, it's just like super duper elite. And then the coin door down here, Cinematronics. This is the kind of logo coin door with this kind of die-cast Cinematronics logo. And you can see they kind of replicated that on the box here with Replitronics, So, I don't know, kind of cool. I guess we can just try a quick game. Now, when I was a kid, I was really bad at this game, and as an adult, I'm still really bad. I've yet to beat the game. And I probably should just take the time one night and probably use the internet. That would be cheating, though, wouldn't it? I've been trying not to, look up on the internet, how to do things here. But, all right, let's actually review the controls really fast here. So, this is an 8-way joystick, which is kind of debatable, but it is 8-way because there's diagonals that you do need to use. And you have 2 buttons each one's the sword, you know, kind of lefty-righty thing, and a 1-player and a 2-player start button. So, all right, we'll just play a quick game, and then we'll check out the quarter scale one and kind of compare and contrast. Now, when I was a kid, I remember there being a drawbridge, and everyone says that never existed, but I'm telling you, there was a drawbridge. All right, so here we go. So now this level here actually sometimes gives me trouble, believe it or not. The timing has to be just such, and you get over it. Okay, so that was right. So this here, right. I actually dislike this level. It's so long and not very difficult. So I'm just pressing left, right. You gotta stay in the colored lanes. Left, right, left. But, I mean, some people say this is not a game, and I really strongly disagree. This is 100% a game. And the execution is just so great. Like, you really do feel like you're controlling Dirk, the Daring. And right to grab the chain. And then sometimes they'll mirror the levels. So on this one, I usually go for the third one. 1, 2, 3, left. Now my game was acting up a couple weeks ago where it was skipping forward, time with the door, forward. And then there's the bridge here, left. Forward, so when he ducks down, press forward. Sword. Back, forward, and you're out. Sword, sword, left, sword, and sword. Pretty cool, right? All right, so this one, sword, forward, right. They give you little cues back, left, and then forward. Now this one always screws me up. I'm probably gonna die here. Yep, see? I'm gonna start falling apart now. This one here, I'm not, yeah. So you can see, okay, this one's hard. With this knight, you gotta stay in the areas where he's, I just blew it. That's a cool level though. So my score there was 39,879. You can see my high score of all time is 46,825. So yeah, that's Dragon's Lair in a nutshell. And again, you know, I'm running the original LaserDisc. Actually, no, I'm running a LaserDisc player in here with the LaserDisc. I have a Pioneer LDV, I think 8,000 LaserDisc player in here with the LaserDisc. I also do have the, what's it called? The Merlin card. That allows me to run Space Ace in here. So I can run Dragon's Lair or Space Ace. And then over here, this is the original player that actually came with my game. And it does work. This player kind of has a reputation of being not as reliable as some of the later model LaserDisc players. So I removed the original one, which still works, put it on a shelf, and then I bought like an LDV, again, I think 8,000, which is a higher end LaserDisc model. It's a slightly newer model, and I believe it's a commercial model. But this is what a LaserDisc player looked like. You know, it's like a giant DVD player. This is what the LaserDiscs themselves look like, okay? So this right here is my Space Ace, and it looks like just like a giant record, right? If you guys remember vinyl. This side here is all metal, and then this side right here has the information. And what's happening to these LaserDiscs that as time progresses here, they're getting what's called disc rot. And I thought that's what was happening to my game a few weeks ago because it was skipping scenes. And I was worried that my disc was starting to go. I do have an extra Dragon's Lair disc, but right now it seems to be working fine. But eventually, these discs are just not going to work anymore. And it's a real shame to think about, you know. the foil, whatever this is, this metal stuff here is starting to break down. The discs are delaminating, and it's a real shame because these are not going to work at some point in the future. But what will work is this. Now, obviously, this is much smaller than the real thing, but I think it's going to be cool. So let's take a look at the box here. Okay, so Don Bluth presents, okay? Again, Don Bluth was the artist, kind of the creator of this series. He's an ex-Disney guy. You can see the animation and art style on the game is just world class. It's top notch, okay? So what they did here is they kind of replicated what the shipping box would look like, right? So, you know, kind of arrows up, you know, handle with care, don't get wet. The dimensions on here are obviously the original box dimensions, or at least the game. The upright, 72 3/4 inches height. Okay, so just over 6 feet. Boxed, it's 77 inches, 25-inch width, 30-inch depth for the cabinet, and then the box itself is 27.5 and 33. 330 pounds, I guess, is what they're saying the original game weighed. Now, that game is very heavy. I remember bringing it down here. You know, I don't know if it's the heaviest game, but it's not the lightest game. So, all right, let's kind of take a look around here. But yeah, that's kind of like the shipping box. If you were an operator back in the 80s, you know, it might have looked just like this when you got it. So, all right, let's open this up and see what's going on in here. So let's see if there's an easy way to do this without kind of destroying it. It looks like this kind of wants to come up. All right, here we go. Okay, so in here, very nice, colorful box. That's pretty cool. You know, this might be the best one they've done. You know, we did a review of the Centipede one. This one's pretty elite here. I'm kind of getting excited. So let's take a look around. Second screen scoreboard. Again, you know, it's got that segmented display that we talked about on the top there, right? So they're saying this has it. USB external controller connectivity. Oh, that's interesting. Wow, I did not know this. HD TV connectivity. I had no. Oh my God, we're gonna plug it into the TV down here. I had no idea it did that. Okay, the Centipede did not do that. So we're gonna need a USB controller and, okay, well, I definitely have one somewhere in the basement. Interesting. So let's go ahead and open this up. Huh, the HDMI thing is really interesting to me. That's like super interesting. All right, so all these features, plays the original 83 Dragon's Lair, fully functional secondary scoreboard, traditional 4:3 aspect ratio, operator menu featuring dip switch settings, and cabinet controls, miniaturized. Oh, this is 1/6 scale, not quarter scale control panel. Is the cabinet itself quarter scale? I don't know. I think the other ones were. It's 12 feet, so it's 12 inches. So that, I guess that is not. All right, so let's look in here. So we have a little manual. I see some Daphne stickers. Let's take a look here. All right, this is pretty funny. I'm already loving the detail here. All right, we have a miniature LASERDISC. And let's see how we open that up. All right, that's freaking cool. Look at that. I think it has plastic film on it. Okay, whoops. That's something else. And it even seems to have the two sides. I believe there's a plastic film on here. Yeah, there definitely is. So it has this side that's probably supposed to be the metal side, and then that's the data side. And it came in a little cardboard kind of sleeve right there. And if I look at some of my other LASERDISC. Not, the other ones I have here have more of a jacket, not with the hole in it, but still, that is pretty cool. And again, if we were to compare here, actually, let me find my Dragon's Lair one, so we actually compare apples to apples. Okay, so here's an original Dragon's Lair right here. Now you can see it has a Pioneer logo, whereas the logo they put on there is like the Cinematronics, I believe, logo, which maybe wouldn't have been on there. I'm not sure, but mine all have Pioneer, like the manufacturer logo on the disc. But still, what a nice little touch. All right, so we have a little miniature LASERDISC. That's pretty badass. So we have a Daphne sticker, or is this a tattoo? What is this? I don't know. Something tells me this is a tattoo. No, it's a sticker. It's a Daphne sticker. We have some miniature tokens or coins or quarters right there. Okay. What is this? So this looks like a piece of metal. Maybe something is magnetic. And then in here, very nice quality actually, like a linen finish on the cover. So talks about all the different ports and things in Spanish and French. So just a bunch of different languages.
Dragon's Lair.
So far the attention to detail is pretty spot on. Like, they did not have to include a miniature LASERDISC. USB cable, I presume, for charging. Alright, so let's kind of take a peek here. Alright, so here's the cabinet. It has a nice heft to it. Alright, so this thing's just over a foot tall. Let's kind of lift this up. So the design is obviously spot on. It looks just like it. So we have some plastic film on here. This thing is pretty awesome, guys. Like, honestly. Like, this is what I dreamt of having when I was a kid, you know? Because when I was a kid, our little kind of home arcade games looked nothing like this. What they looked like was, where's my Donkey Kong Jr.? Can I put that on my shelf? When I was a kid, yeah, they looked like this over here. Let me grab my Donkey Kong Jr. So, when I was a kid, like, the biggest dream of all was to play the arcade games at your house, okay? And you would get, like, the 2600 versions, and they were horrible. Like, not even, like, Donkey Kong on the 2600 is an absolute joke, okay? Like, it's just so bad. And then I would get the handheld games, and this was probably the best of them back in the 80s. You know, I had this thing, you know, in the 80s. I remember my mom and I were at like a Sears outlet store or something. I'm pretty sure it was Sears or JCPenney outlet store, and they had this thing on clearance. Now, this is not the exact one that I had when I was a kid. That went somewhere. Probably was sold at a garage sale. But one of my viewers sent me this because they knew I had this when I was a kid, and I loved this freaking thing. But it was not the arcade game, you know. It just wasn't. This is the arcade game. You know, this is what I wanted when I was a kid. So, all right, anyway, let's take a peek here. So we can kind of compare, you know, I mean, it's freaking Dragon's Lair, right? The side art, okay, you can see mine has side art on there. It appears to be the correct and exact side art. The control panel overlay, it's the right artwork, right number of buttons, right colors, the coin door. Okay, so you can see mine has the original Cinematronics logo in here. Theirs has the Replicade. So obviously it wasn't necessary to get the Cinematronics logo license to do this project. So they probably just did this deal with Don Bluth, or I think his company is called Leisure Arts or Digital Leisure or something. So they just kind of replicate. I'm sure Cinematronics is long gone, right? So they just called it Replitronics. So the coin door does open, and it looks like there's going to be LEDs back here. So we've got a joystick. It has a nice micro switchy feel. The original was leaf switches, buttons. So we've got our little display back here, the left and the right speaker, our marquee artwork. Yeah, everything looks right. Whoever did this, they knew what they were doing. And I'm looking at here. So this is all exactly right. Starcom. I can't read that text right there. So the original copyright text below the right speaker was Starcom Inc. 1983, San Diego, California. So lies, player, it's all right. You know, some of the things are a little off, you know, scale-wise, but it's all close. You know, like the distance between the bottom of the speaker and here, and here, and here is probably not exactly proportionally the same, but it's really in the ballpark. I'm sure it was driven by what size speakers they were able to get. So, all right, let's attempt to power this thing on. And if we look at the back here, so we have a power switch, USB, HDMI, USB 2, charge, and volume, and a light here. So let me, where is, so I'm gonna need like a, I need to go get a phone charger, right? So we can plug this in down here. All right, let me go grab a phone charger. Hang on. All right, I went and grabbed my Samsung phone charger here. So let's go ahead and plug this in here. So we have a light on now, okay? So let's turn it around, and I presume we can now turn it on. Okay, let me turn the light off here. So we could see that little display up there is lighting up. The screen, 4x3, very bright and clear. Let me make sure the volume's turned up on this thing. So I'm wondering if it has like an attract mode. It would have been cool if it had Dragon's Lair 2 and even Space Ace on it.
Dragon's Lair, the fantasy adventure.
Okay,
you become a valiant
that is the correct attract mode.
to the fair princess from the clutches of an evil dragon.
So I have the,
You control the actions of a daring adventure.
you can see the screen is a little bit bigger. It's definitely bigger. It's like 30% bigger than the new Game & Watch. It's a better screen than the Game & Watch, 100%. It's probably almost double the size, I bet, diagonally. That's a great looking little screen. All right, so let's see what happens here when we try to play it. Insert 2 coins. All right, so I'm pressing this button.
A fantasy adventure where you become a valiant knight on a quest to rescue the fair princess from the clutches of an evil dragon. You control the actions of a daring adventurer finding his way through the castle of a dark wizard.
All right, so I just pressed the right button here on the coin door, and I'm now in this menu. And I got screen brightness. Obviously, I don't know what I'm doing right now. So let's turn the brightness all the way up. Game audio, Replicade or HDMI. Oh, that's cool. Attract mode, audio on. Dirks per credit, I believe 3 is what I do. Marquee on. Yeah, so the marquee lights up, which is super cool. All right. Difficulty level, easy, whatever. We'll do medium. Joystick sound on, because the original arcade would make a beep. Screen blinking. Huh. I'm not sure I know what that means. All right, so I'll press this to get out. I still don't know how to coin it up, though.
Dragon's Lair, a fantasy adventure where you become a...
I guess I have to read the manual. Oh, it says credit 1. There, credit 2. All right. So it is the left coin button is credits, the right one is service. All right, let's see how this goes. All right, so far so good. I totally pressed right there. Surprisingly playable. You know, obviously the little Game & Watch handheld that Nintendo made is a lot more practical, you know, but because they added the HDMI, which I'm very curious about, it feels like, I don't know if it's latency or me, but it feels like I have to be just a hair ahead of it. Oh, I hate this one. I used to have this one down cold, and all of a sudden one day I forgot it. It's down, 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 and then forward when you get to like the purple ball, or after it. Yeah, after this one. There it is. All right. Okay, sword. So we're seeing a lot of the same levels and the order that we saw in the LaserDisc version, the original version. Well, there you go. Hey, that wasn't bad, right? That was the game. You know, the controls take some time to get used to, but we were totally playing Dragon's Lair there. I didn't see too many compromises. So why don't I grab an HDMI cable? Now I grabbed I don't know if this is gonna work, but we'll try it. If I plug this in via USB in the back, would this work to control it? I don't know. So let me grab an HDMI cable and I'll hook this up to the TV down here and let's see what that's all about. All right, I grabbed a HDMI cable. I plugged it into my television. So let's plug it into this and see what happens. Look at that. All right, so now for controls, let's see what we have here. All right, let's do something really ridiculous. I have a Stadia controller. Will this work? Let's try it. Maybe we'll put it in USB 1. Oh, I see 2 players. All right, is this gonna work? Somewhere in my basement, I have a, won't even turn on. All right, maybe not. Let's try the PlayStation. Oh, it just turned on. Hang on. Where's the PlayStation controller? I need a cable for that. Here, let's try the PlayStation one. Might be easier. But somewhere in the basement, I have one of those retro SNES USB controllers. I can't seem to find it. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, this does work. PlayStation controller works. Okay, it's exciting. All right, so let's do game audio HDMI. And we'll, okay. So how do I back out of here? So I guess I'll come on the, all right. So we have dueling Dragon's Lair right now. So let me turn up the volume of this TV. What's up, Max? So right now let me turn down. All right, I just turned down the real Dragon's Lair. Okay, so insert coins. All right, here we go. I don't know how I did that, but I did it. I pressed the D-pad. All right. Now, obviously, this is a very crappy TV. I'm using the D-pad on the PS4 controller. I'm not paying attention. Right. What? I do too soon? I'm definitely doing worse on here. All right, let's try this again.
Dragon's Lair, the fantasy adventure where you become a valiant knight.
Okay, so that button there, the top left one, that's coin. And then this is probably start. Yep. So it's mapped to the PS4 controller. All right, let's try this again. It looks okay. Oh, this is not right. What? I've never done this one. What? What was that? I've never even seen that level before. What was that level? It's clearly doing them in a different order than mine is. So the video quality is not bad, but this is a really cheap 720p TV. So I'm sure on a 4K TV, it wouldn't look as awesome. So after the purple, go forward. All right. This is diagonal here, up left. And you follow the treasure, right? Right. 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 Sword, 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 sword. I have to say, I swear to God, I did not know this thing had HDMI going into this video. And, okay, I hit that. This has made this whole thing. Now, I think this thing's about $100 though. And there's other ways to play Dragon's Lair. I mean, you could play this through MAME or whatever. You know, there's other ways to do this. But, you know, if you want to be above board, this isn't bad. The timing on the joystick feels a little bit different, you know. I'm curious if I can use the analog stick. Let me coin up again. You know, the D-pad's wrong, the analog stick is wrong, so the joysticks are both wrong. But if you had some kind of USB arcade stick, I suppose. I pressed forward on the analog stick. I don't think that works. Oh, no, it does. That feels really weird. I think D-pad is the way to go. Stay in the different color lane. It is kind of interesting for me to see, oh, I just pressed right, to see how crisp the art looks, because I'm used to seeing this on a CRT, and like, I have never seen this level in my life. I don't know what this is. I want to get back in that menu. So, difficulty level medium. Screen blanking. I think screen blanking is what would happen on the LASERDISC. Something tells me. Marquee on. So I don't know if because I did medium is why I'm seeing those other levels. Maybe mine's on easy. Could it be? And it's throwing some of those later levels in earlier because I selected medium. I wonder if that's what it is. So, all right, well, hey, this thing's pretty darn cool. You know, it's $100. Is it $100 cool? I don't know. That's for you to decide. But the HDMI part of this really is interesting to me. It's like super interesting. So, all right, why don't we let's do some viewer mail and hang out. Let me clean up here. All right, guys, let's do some viewer mail. So what'd you think of this, huh? I think it's pretty darn cool, honestly. Like, I genuinely think that's cool. And the HDMI really kind of made it for me. I'm going to probably put this on top of my game. You know, I thought about making a little Sony PVM monitor out of cardboard and putting, wouldn't that be fun? You know, it has HDMI out. I wonder if I can get a little, that would be a fun project, wouldn't it? To get like a little, like, miniature display with HDMI in. You could run it through the HDMI out, but I didn't notice, was it showing the video on here? Oh, you know what? The one thing I noticed though, when we were playing on the TV, we didn't see the score, did we? So we have no idea what our score is. I'm assuming we have to look at that display when we're doing it. So, all right, let's do some viewer mail. If you guys want to participate in the viewer mail, you got to email them to me at john@johnsarcade.com. That's john@johnsarcade.com. It could be a question, it could be a comment, it could be anything. Just send it to john@johnsarcade.com. First one here is from Brendan. Hey, John, I was wondering if you ever wanted to build your own arcade cabinet. If so, what type of game? A platformer? A shooter? I've been watching your videos since 2015. You are one of my top 3 favorite YouTube channels. You rock. Sincerely, Brendan. So I have thought about this, and this question has come up before. You know, I did make a not a scratch build, but I made a custom arcade cabinet for Will Wright. I don't know if you guys saw that video series a while ago. And Will Wright, you know, the creator of The Sims and SimCity and all that, you know, he did a very early game called Raid on Bungling Bay, and his friend contacted me and wanted to give it to him as a present, because I guess he used to have a Raid on Bungling Bay arcade game back in the 90s or 80s, and I guess it got burnt up in a fire, and so I recreated, or what I thought it would look like. Anyway, the point is, by the way, go watch that video series. The point is that was like an NES game, but really it was a Nintendo Versus game that I built a custom cabinet for, but that was running an original Nintendo Versus hardware. But my point is this, is that I have thought about this because I have NES Maker. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I actually backed the Kickstarter a while ago, and I started making my own NES game called Ball Patrol, which is kind of a joke from my podcast and my other YouTube channel called The Gamersons. But I started making a game on there called Ball Patrol, and I was getting somewhere with it. You know, I didn't spend a ton of time, but I actually made something that worked. You know, it wasn't amazing or great or even good, but I was getting results, and I started thinking, man, you know, I should make. And by the way, this is the NES Maker cartridge and the little adapter here that allows you to flash your program onto this cartridge and then stick it into an original NES game. So I started thinking, well, if I were to really make something, you know, like a shooter or a platformer is probably more me, is probably what I would want to make, but a shooter could potentially be easier. But if I were to make some kind of platformer, I could flash it onto this cart, right? And then I could put this in a PlayChoice 10, a Nintendo PlayChoice 10 cabinet, right, with an adapter, right, because someone makes an NES to PlayChoice 10 adapter, and I could, in theory, make my own arcade game, right? Or I could just take an NES and stick it in an arcade cabinet and, you know, get some kind of a adapter, you know, to run the composite video to the 15K or whatever for the arcade monitor. That would work, wouldn't it? So, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about it. Will I ever do it? I have no idea. But it has crossed my mind, and I think this would be, if you were to want to do this, this would be the key to it. I think this would make it easier to do. Make your game in NES Maker, put it on a cartridge, and then put an NES with an old CRT in a cabinet, or use a PlayChoice 10 cabinet or board and make your own cabinet. So, I don't know. I'll keep thinking about that. All right, the next one. I need some water. The next one here is from Shane. And he says, "Hey, John, I just acquired an original PacMan. Someone just put it out on the curb in front of the house, of their house, to be picked up by the garbage man. So I snagged it up and brought it home. Some cosmetic issues, but repairable. The problem is the board. The screen comes on, but gives me an error message, says bad WRAM, okay? I'm at a loss as I know nothing about the electronics side of the stuff. Is this an easy fix? I've attached a video and image of the screen. Also later, to future-proof the cab, I was thinking of replacing the CRT with an LCD monitor, putting in a 60-in-1 with and replacing the panel with the modded 3 fire buttons and trackball. I know you're a purist, but I'm just considering my options. Thanks, Shane. So he sent in a image showing the error and a video of the cabinet. Why don't we go ahead and show that stuff right now? All right, Shane, so that is a real PacMan. Good job on getting that from the curb. Now, I don't know if that really says bad WRAM. I'm not sure. All right, here's a couple things about PacMan. So, you know, we've been operating a couple of PacMans at the Hangar Bar and Grill for the last few years, and I've dealt with a lot of the PacMan issues, and they're similar to what you're experiencing, where you have this kind of garbagey boot screen. Sometimes it says something about RAM, and I almost always fix it by pushing on the chips. And, you know, I'll pull the game out. Ours has a little daughter board on the PacMan, but I'll pull the game out, I'll reseat. So there's a bunch of things you gotta look at. Okay, so the edge connector is one of them. I have a video on that. That edge connector is a problem with PacMan in a big way, okay? So I replaced the edge connector on my old PacMan. I did a video on it. Go look at the Cabaret series. That fixed a lot of the power issues I had. You gotta check your voltages always. That always has to be your first step when you do these things. And by the way, this is all well documented on, go on Google and search for Lawnmower Man PacMan repair, okay? And I think it was the Roth blog that archived this old website that really documented PacMan like in an amazing way. Like every error code, every possible thing that could be wrong, screens showing problems and how to fix them. You gotta go to that website. Just Google Lawnmower Man PacMan, okay? So with PacMan, again, the big problems with this, and these might not be your problems, but these are the things to look at, okay? The fuse blocks on the bottom, okay? Those always go bad. We did a video of that last time where I replaced the fuse block on the Paperboy. Look at the fuse block on your PacMan, okay? Make sure that all the fuses are working. Make sure that they're not burnt up. Make sure you have good continuity between the holders and the fuse and all that stuff. Check that, okay? The other thing that happens is there is a filter board from the factory that was installed between the board and the harness, okay? So you'd have the board, okay, with the board's edge connector here, and then they would put a filter board right here in the middle, and then on top would be the harness connector, okay? Take that filter board and throw it in the garbage, okay? That is a variable that you need to just get rid of, okay? So instead of having 2 connections right here, remove the filter board and you have one single connector, which is the harness, the edge connector harness, and then the edge connector on the board, okay? So you have one connector. So get rid of that. The other thing, you gotta check your voltages. That's really important always, no matter what. I'm always gonna say that when we're doing these videos. You gotta check the voltages. Now, PacMan is unique because the power supply is on the game PCB. Right. So most of these games down here, we have the game PCB, the logic board, and then a separate power supply. On PacMan, it's all on one board. There's a power supply section on the board, and then the logic is down below. So to repair the power supply, you gotta replace all the caps and stuff on the logic board. But on that Lawnmower Man website, it's well documented how to check the voltages in this section. I believe there's some capacitors you can easily check. It's all very simple to check, okay? And then the other thing, of course, is socketed chips, and that is the thing that gives us the most problem at the hangar with PacMan, is that those socket, and we should really replace the sockets, but we haven't. And every time I walk into the hangar and I see a screen like yours, ours sometimes talks about ROMs, probably not RAM, but ours also does say RAM sometimes, but most of the time it says ROM. And I just take the back door off and I start pushing on all the chips, and you know, and then I reseat the edge connector, and 9 times out of 10 it fixes it. So if I were you, I would at least start with those things I said. Now, if you truly have a bad RAM in the game, well, then you're gonna have to solder. You're gonna have to, identify which RAM it is. If you're unable to do that, send it out for repair. But you could try the things that I recommended, and those are all pretty simple things, and it's all well documented out there. So good luck, and let me know what happens. All right, next one here is from Jesse. Actually, it's a 2-part email. I'm realizing now that it's getting a lot harder for me to read these emails down here. I don't know if it's the lighting or my eyes, but I guess it's my eyes. I can read them. I can make it out, but it's not as good as it was a year or two ago doing these videos. John definitely needs reading glasses. I have them, but I'm not admitting that I really need them. Hey John, I wanted to ask you a few questions about my Street Fighter 1 cabinet that I just recently picked up. The cabinet has some minor issues I'd like to fix, so I was hoping you could help me with it. For starters, I was changing the dip switch settings on the board, and now all the settings I had selected and now all the settings I had selected work, but now the track music doesn't play. I tried screwing around with it some more, referred to the manual and some websites, but none of them turn it on. I'll send a picture of the settings I have as of a current and as a reference to what settings should look like, but I need your experience to come fix it. Lastly, my coin door light is out, picture included, and I was hoping you or someone watching could help identify the types of light it is. Just want to say I love your videos and hope to see more in the future. Thanks in advance. And then he sent a second video here, second message. Well, a lot has changed today. My computer has no sound. No, my monitor has no sound. My marquee powers on and the coin door lights up, but it just wouldn't turn on. I am completely new at this. This is my first arcade machine, so I'm intimidated by it. So I was wondering if you could lend some knowledge. So this is Street Fighter 1. That was the one that had the big, giant, weird buttons, right? There was a version of that with like pneumatic buttons or something like that. Or I think there was a standard version too, which is regular joysticks and buttons. But that was not a super successful game, was it? It wasn't very popular, but still, nonetheless, worth fixing. So. All right, let's kind of see if we can digest this. So, as far as the dip switch settings go, first of all, make sure you actually have a legit board and it's not a bootleg. Maybe do some Googling on that. Just search for Capcom Street Fighter 1 PCB and look at all the images and make sure that yours jives with that. Because a lot of these boards were bootlegged back in the day, and maybe the dip switches are not the same, Another thing is maybe some of the dip switches are dirty. That happens. I've had it happen to some of my games where I would turn the dip switches and it wasn't doing what the manual said. And then I would spray some deoxit on the switches to kind of loosen that up, So do that. I don't know what the dip switch settings are supposed to be. I honestly didn't research it. I would find the original manual. It's possible there could be 2 different board versions for this game. Like I said, there was a version of Street Fighter that had the pneumatic giant crazy buttons, and then there was the version that was maybe for conversion or just a straight up JAMA board. I don't know. So make sure you have the correct manual, make sure your board's not bootleg, make sure your switches are clean. The other thing, obviously, that we're always going to say is check your voltages. I'm assuming that this is a JAMA cabinet and you have a standard switching power supply. On the top of that power supply, it should say 5 volts and 12 volts and -5. You could start out by testing the voltages there. I've done a lot of videos of that. And then what you really should do, though, which is slightly more advanced, is check the voltages at the board on one of the chips, or on the traces or test points if they're there. As far as your coin door bulbs go, there's 2 kinds of bulbs you'll come across for the most part. If it's 5 volts at the coin door, and the bayonet kind of twist style. It's either a 4.4 or 4.7 bulb. Those are kind of interchangeable. And if it's a 12 volts at the coin door, it's usually a 161 bulb, a 161. So basically, you need to figure out if you have the kind of like twist kind with the little tabs, or is it the bayonet style where it just kind of just goes in, or is it the kind that twists to come out? If it twists to come out, odds are it's a 4.4 or a 4.7. Those two bulbs are interchangeable. If it's the kind of bayonetta style, it's likely a 161 and 12 volts there. So I don't know. Let me know what happens. Hopefully I answered your questions. By the way, going back to the other email, the guy said he wanted to maybe put a LCD display in there and a 60-in-1. You know, I wouldn't do that all at once. What you could do, by the way, you know, if you can't get that PacMan working, you could go get a PacMan adapter, PacMan to JAMA adapter, and this is what I did in my Miss PacMan upstairs. And this is a very non-destructive way of kind of converting your PacMan. You can leave the original harness in there, the original board, but just convert it to JAMA. And then you could plug a 60-in-1 in there, or a MAME computer, which is what I did. But my game is all original inside. The only difference is I added this JAMA adapter that just plugged in the harness. If you do the 60-in-1 PCB, you're going to need to get a separate power supply to run that, but that's not destructive either. You just could tap into the power in the cabinet, and then run the 5 volts and the ground to the JAMA adapter, and then you'd be on your way. Now, if you wanted to play the other games that required more buttons and the trackball, then you would start getting destructive again. What I did with my Miss PacMan is I bought a reproduction Miss PacMan control panel, okay? I took my original off, put it on the shelf, and then I used a reproduction with my original joystick because I love that original joystick. So that's what I did. So there's ways to do that without destroying it. And if the monitor CRT still works, why replace it? You know, and usually it's not that hard to fix. It is kind of daunting in the beginning. You know, I was intimidated. So, all right, I think we're done. So guys, I want to thank you for listening, for watching the videos here. Thank you for subscribing and all that good stuff. Again, if you guys want to send viewer mail, send them to john@johnsarcade.com, john@johnsarcade.com. I'm going to ask that if you send the viewer mail, you send them at 25-point font. Kidding. But yeah, it could be a question, comment, whatever. Send it to john@johnsarcade.com. And again, listen to my podcast, Video Game Outsiders, at videogameoutsiders.com. I've been doing that podcast for over 15 years. It's about modern gaming. Just go check it out at videogameoutsiders.com. We also have a free app. You can search on iOS or Android. Search for Video Game Outsiders. And I think that's about it. Oh, you know, my podcast too, you know, over the years we made a bunch of original songs for the podcast, so we put it together as an album, and you can go buy that right now. You can actually pre-order that. It comes out December 15th. If you go to iTunes or Amazon and search for Video Game Outsiders Stupid Songs, that's what the album's called. Search for Video Game Outsiders Stupid Songs, you could buy that album. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. So, all right, that's it. I'm done. I'll see you guys soon. Next video, I guess it has to be Paperboy. I have the big blue here, you know, which is what I hope fixes it. I mean, I got a lot of problems down here, guys. Paperboy's down, freaking Mortal Kombat's down, Zookeeper's down, Computer Spaceball's down. It's all breaking. This was a nice little diversion, wasn't it? So, all right, I'll see you very soon. Thanks for subscribing, all that stuff. Later, and bye.